So I'm Sarah Tunstall, and I'm going to talk about my research and investigation into the correlation of telecommuting with job satisfaction and productivity in large corporations. Telecommuting is also known as remote working, working from home, working from anywhere, and flexible workplace. And for the purpose of this paper, I'm going to use those terms interchangeably. I wanted to explore how telecommuting correlates with job satisfaction and productivity in large corporations. With increased job satisfaction comes productivity, as well as many other side effects. To understand the correlation, I'm first going to briefly discuss the evolution of telecommuting and the benefits and challenges to the employee, employer, and the social impacts of telecommuting. Sorry. So for the evolution, telecommuting has evolved over the past 50 years. It started during the oil crisis in the 1970s, and since then it's been a rising trend due to new technology, and most recently the COVID-19 pandemic. The world shut down in 2020, and despite the uncertainties, businesses had to keep going, and telecommuting in your pajama pants and a dress shirt became the norm. There are many benefits and challenges for employees and employers with telecommuting. The benefits employers include, but aren't limited to, reduced absenteeism and increased productivity of employees. These go along with the social exchange theory, which has been used to explain the motivations behind employee behaviors and attitudes. It suggests that in exchange for working from home, employees will work unpaid and work harder to be seen out of debt to their employer. The advantages for employees for remote working include work-life balance, a flexible schedule, a relaxed environment, and so on. The self-determination theory can be used to explore the idea of job satisfaction in remote working. There's three components: autonomy, competence, and connection. Research shows that SDT, self-determination theory, results indicated that telecommuters experience more satisfaction out of each of these psychological needs and were generally more satisfied with their jobs than office workers. Could this mean that due to teleworkers' high job satisfaction that they are more productive? The studies are once again conflicting. Telecommuting is not a walk in the park either. There are some definite challenges, with the most prominent being social isolation. Unfortunately, working from home can cause some to feel isolated from the world. Being home all day by yourself and only communicating with others digitally can be lonely. In the office, workers usually have time to socialize, even if it's just on the way to the break room. To help decrease the isolating feelings, telecommuters must learn new ways to connect with colleagues and clients. Telecommuting has a ripple effect across the world, ranging from environmental, social, economic, and cultural. And for the sake of time, we're going to discuss the social factor, specifically social isolation. So, social isolation is defined as having a lack of social connections and can lead to loneliness. Loneliness can lead to a host of concerns, such as cardiovascular disease, anxiety, stress, and depression. And this spills over into the work life by reducing productivity, job satisfaction, creativity, and basic decision-making skills. It is vital for corporations to care for their health of their remote workforce, who are more likely to experience feelings of social isolation. Remote working has given employees and employers flexibility, but has drastically reduced life interaction, and this alters the work dynamics. After researching telecommuting and how it correlates with job satisfaction and productivity in large corporations, I gained a better understanding of how this relates to society. A specific need I found would be reducing feelings of social isolation in the remote workforce, because this is considered one of their greatest challenges. During my research on telecommuting and correlations with job satisfaction and productivity, I found that job satisfaction can be lower due to social isolation. And this can have a huge impact on the employees, their families, and the corporations they work for. I feel that social isolation impacts of remote working have not been given as much attention as they merit. I would like to help prevent social isolation by educating corporations as well as remote workers with simple ideas and tips through a website. Using Google Jam, I identified the problem. So we're going into part 2, identification, creation, application, and solution. So using Google's Jamboard, I came up with multiple solutions, weighed the pros and cons of each, and then chose the best solution. So we're going to look at my activity log, hopefully. Here it comes. Okay, so first I found the problem. I chose social isolation because I felt this related back to my original question if telecommuting correlates with job satisfaction and productivity. In order to feel job satisfaction, remote workers shouldn't feel socially isolated. So here, as you can see, I chose social isolation, identified the solution. So I went through the possible solutions and the pros and cons of each. And then I discovered the best solution for me would be to create a website for corporations, management, and remote workers to help and prevent social isolation, also known as professional isolation. First, I needed to find the content for the site. I would like to have it as a tips and resources for both employers and employees of remote working people. So the tips and hints for the website, I broke it down using a brainstorming app. After filling it out, it was super crazy busy, so I printed it out so I could see the whole picture. So here's a small picture of what it looked like. And then I started working on the website, homepage, about social isolation, and broke it down into corporations, why it's important, and why it's important to remote workers. Then I work cited page, and again, it just keeps on going. I worked on the individual content, just going through all the research and kind of trying to put it together easy for people could understand. I did basic editing and switching around after having the website looked by a fellow classmate and my spouse. And basic spell check stuff kept going. So I feel like the process went smoothly. I do feel that I could continue to work on the site forever, adding more and more information, but I believe this is the best I can do in the time and have it ready for turn in by Sunday. Okay, so now I'll go back to my presentation. So the top challenge of remote working is social isolation. So this is my site. Here we go. Here's the first page here, the home page, describing the purpose. The #1 challenge with remote working is social isolation. So you can have up here, I have all my different tabs, but this is the issue about social isolation. This goes into how it's defined by being a lack of social connections, and it can lead to loneliness, and how it causes all kinds of problems for everybody, the importance for corporations and for employees to stay on top of it. And I feel like this website will give people some resources that they need. So we'll start with the corporations, how it basically messes with people's productivity if they're socially isolated and they feel lonely and they're not satisfied with their job, they're not going to be as productive. I also have resources here that you can click on links to get more information. So the corporations page, which you can get to the top or from down here, I broke it down into 4 different categories. The first would be value and encourage social connections. So for that, I did, I just discussed in articles that I read and research that I got, but basically the value and encourage social strong connections is about using the hierarchy of personal interactions, email, then chats, phone calls, video calls, and then in-person meetups. Employers, corporations need to use and encourage all of these, but remember that using video conferencing software such as Zoom helps employees to be able to pick up on nonverbal cues from their coworkers, and it creates just a better understanding of each other. One tip that I found would be using a virtual break room, and it's where employees can focus on shared interests and discover commonalities, and people can share photos and stories to build a stronger personal connection, basically creating opportunities for employers to socialize regularly. And again, there's some little resources to click on if you wanted to check that out. The next would be encouraging and modeling pro-social behavior in the workplace. So using pro-social behavior and giving back to our coworkers and our community is essential for creating strong corporate culture, as well as reducing feelings of social isolation. People who are lonely need authentic social interaction. So if their coworkers are being kind to them, this could help fulfill that need, and it helps them feel that they belong and strengthen their trust and bonds between coworkers. And remember, kindness is contagious. The next one I went through is creating an environment where people feel like they're in the loop. Management must be intentional and proactive with sharing resources and information with remote workers. One way to do this may be through daily huddles, where you have a group phone call for 15 minutes every morning or in the evening just to see how their day went or what they're going to be doing. This aspect is important that we have it as a normalized and prioritized thing. So this is what everyone can expect. By having these kind of relationships, people feel like they are more involved. Another thing would be maybe doing like a mentoring or buddy system. So this will encourage employees to help each other, and it also will build stronger social connections. And then giving regular performance feedback. We know this is important, especially like while we're in class, we like to have our grades, see how we're doing, see what's going on, where we stand. Same for remote workers. Due to being remote workers, they can't pick up on those nonverbal cues, so they need feedback weekly to see how they're doing. When employees know where they stand in terms of their performance, they may have less anxiety and they feel positive about themselves and the work that they're doing, and this will help them feel like they're an important component to the team and less isolated. Also, another article I thought was really great, and it's about loneliness in work. Okay, so we'll go ahead back into the home page and check out what we can do, the workers can do for themselves. Here I have resources for tips and tricks, and then also online counseling services, which I thought was pretty cool. You can click on that and it leads you to another website where they can find counselors, like online counselors. I'd like to do one that's where you can go in person, but I just really couldn't find anything. And then also Open Workspace. It's like a link where you can put in your zip code and find open remote workspace. So for the tips, my first one is get up and get out, which I felt was really helpful. Basically, this is saying that you need to get out of the house every day. Go work at your local library or a coffee shop or the co-working space, and be really intentional about having pro-social behavior, which means to help people out and be kind. This can reduce stress, and it can also help you feel more involved in your community. Reach out to friends outside of the work circle. So go to your parents or your sister or your family members and hang out with them. Go to the park or a dinner date. Just join a gym or a dance class or a bird watching class, or go mountain bike. Go have fun with your friends. It's really important that we have high quality interactions with close family and friends, and that spending time together and supporting one another helps us feel loved and wanted and can reduce the feelings of social isolation. The next one is communicate with our coworkers. So basically we need to try and talk to our people that we're working with. We need to build strong bonds with them. And in order to do this, we need to have spontaneous conversations, daily phone calls, video calls, texting. It's also been seen through research that using social media to chat with coworkers and share mutual interests can help build bonds. But if ever possible, try and meet coworkers in real life. So let's check out our other resources here. The counseling services is right here, available online counselors. You can check this out. Takes us to another thing. So you can get started, you just put in a little information. And then Open Workspace, you can find an Open Workspace near you. So you put in your address and you search, and it should come up with some places where you can go and work. You rent office space and you're around other people. It's just really nice to get out of the house and be around people. So basically, I feel like this is a great resource for people that are socially isolated, that are remote workers, and for people that are employers of people that are remote working. I feel like this is a good resource because it gives tips and tricks and information of why it's important and how it can affect us and how it can affect our companies. And just by being educated on what it is, I feel like people will be able to help prevent it. So that is what I have, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation, and thank you. That's all.